Hi, my name is Elaine. I'm with Exquisite Quilting in Seymour, Tennessee, and I'm going to show you how to make continuous bias binding for making it on a quilt. Now, we're going to start by selecting a square fabric and squaring it up. The fabric I'm going to use is only 14 inches wide, so I'm going to have to square up to 14 inches. So I'm going to take my rotary cutter and my ruler and cut along the line to get a 14-inch piece. Cut along the 14-inch line down here. Turn my fabric and trim up the edge on here. Alright, now we need to get our bias. I'm going to turn my fabric on edge, take my ruler, cut the fabric in half from point to point. Then I'm going to flip it to stitch it. And you want to make sure it's going to be stitched correctly. You're going to put faces together with this angle so that you know it's being stitched correctly. Now I like to pin to make sure my fabric's not going to slide on me. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it. Quilters tend to like the glass head pins. They're very fine, they're easy to slide through the fabric. You can iron them without the heads melting. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to scooch over this way and follow me with it. I'm going to go to the machine. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Excuse my hands, are probably going to be in a way as I hold the fabric. The other thing about the glass head pins, the chance of hitting them with your sewing machine is a little lower than with a thicker pin, and if you hit them, it'll slide through a little easier. Okay. Trim my thread. I'm going to stay right here a minute because now we're going to press it open. So I got all my pins out. I'm going to press my seam first. I'm going to do what's called set the seam by pressing the top first. Remember, we're sewing faces together. So when I open it up, now typically you would press your seams open, but for the sake of this and saving time, I'm just going to press it to the side. And I'm sure my hand is in the way a little bit. And I kind of like to make sure it's going to lay flat, so I'm going to turn it over and press it again. Using care not to stretch my fabric as I'm working with it. Okay, now we're going to go back over to the work area. And I have a nice continuous piece of fabric. Now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to mark a 2.5 inch seam or line. I'm going to use a nice dark marker so you can see it. Now obviously you're not going to want to use a permanent marker on fabric you're going to use in a quilt. Now that I've marked the fabric, I'm going to fold it back faces together again, and I need to wrap it and stitch it from one seam to the other so it becomes a continuous line. Let me get this pin for you and I'll be right back.